All right, so this part's going to talk about synthetic division, and this is a review of something we just did. So we divided this polynomial by this polynomial using long division. Okay, and whenever the divisor is linear, whenever the divisor is linear, and the coefficient is not one, you must use long division. Synthetic division, which is what we're going to talk about, synthetic division, and it's very easy to use. Synthetic division you use in place of long division, and it's easier. That's why we use it in place of long division if the divisor is of this form, x minus c, x plus c. So notice it's linear, and the coefficient of x is 1. See, 1x, 1x. So whenever the divisor looks like this, x minus c, x plus c, you can use synthetic division, and it makes things a lot easier for you. So, can I use synthetic division with this? 2x cubed plus 7x squared plus 2x plus 9 divided by 2x plus 3. The answer is no, because the coefficient of x is not 1. This right here. The coefficient of x is not 1. All right, so you cannot use synthetic division. You will have to use long division. All right, what about this one? Let's do part B. Can I use it with this? X cubed plus 5x squared plus 5x minus 2 divided by x plus 2. The answer is yes. The answer is yes, since the divisor is linear and the coefficient of x is 1. Okay? So whenever the divisor is linear, x to the first, and the coefficient of x is 1, it is so much easier to divide these using synthetic division. So let's talk about that. So let's do some examples with synthetic division. Okay, so the directions will say something like this. So the directions will say, divide each of the following using synthetic division. Okay, so very straightforward, right? And I know I can use synthetic division here because look at the divisor. The divisor is linear and the coefficient of p is 1. All right, now listen carefully. Here's how you're going to use synthetic division. Okay, so you're not using long division. Long division makes it look a little bit more complicated. Synthetic division, what synthetic division does, it removes all of those variables. That's what it does. All right, but listen carefully. You take your divisor, p plus 3, and you set it equal to 0. And you solve for p. So p equals negative 3, right? Okay, that's something you got to remember. So you got to take that divisor and solve for p. Set it equals 0 and solve for p. So p equals negative 3. That's what you're going to put here. So you're going to put negative 3 with kind of like a little box right here, like this. Make it look like this. Okay? And then what goes here are the coefficients of the terms that are in the polynomial of the dividend. So it's kind of like that long division. It looks like that long division without the variables. So 10, all you do is rewrite it in descending order, and if there's any missing terms, you got to put 0. 27, just like this. Negative 6 and 9. That's your first step. So let's go back over this. Synthetic division. You take this, set equal to 0, so you get -3. So don't put +3 here. Just because you see a +3, don't put +3. You got to do the opposite. Set equal to 0 and solve for p. So that's -3 right here. And then what goes here are the coefficients that you see here. 10, 27, -6, 9. Make sure it's in descending order though. So if this is in a different order, you're going to get it wrong. All right. And here's all you do. Listen carefully. Bring down the 10. So when you do this, make sure you're looking at these right here. That's in Canvas in one of those lessons. So make sure you go and you look at that. First thing you do is bring down the first term. Then you multiply. Very easy. -3 times 10, -30. Then you add. All you're doing is this. Multiply, add. Multiply, add. Multiply, add. And that's all you do. Very simple. When I add 27 and -30 is a -3. Multiply. You're going to multiply diagonally. You're going to add vertically. Multiply diagonally, add vertically. See, bring it down. That's a 0. Think of this as a 0. 10 plus 0 is 10. Then you multiply. -3 times 10, -30. So put that here, the next column. Then you add -3. Then you multiply. -3 times -3 is 9. Then you add. -6 and 9 is 3. Then you multiply. -3 times 3 is -9. And then you add, you get 0. So that's your remainder. That last number is always your remainder. That last number is always your remainder. Now, here's a question. How do you write the answer? Because remember, the answer, you got to write it as a quotient plus a remainder divided by the divisor, right? Okay. Well, this is your quotient right here. That's your quotient. This is your quotient. That's your quotient. All right, now listen carefully. Now notice that this quotient doesn't contain any variables, so you got to put your variables. So look, you see how the degree here is 3? So what that means is this. So this is going to be, and I'm going to go ahead and write it in blue. So you're going to put p squared, p, and then the constant. So the first number you see will be the coefficient of p squared. Always go one less. P cubed, p squared. So the answer is going to be p squared, 10p squared, minus 3p, and then plus 3. That's your constant, that's your remainder. Plus a remainder divided by your divisor, and this is your divisor, p plus 3. There's your answer. The more you do, the easier it becomes. The more you do, the easier it becomes. Now you can, since the remainder is 0, you can just put your quotient as the answer. 10p squared minus 3p plus 3. All right, so let's do another one, and you'll see how easy it's going to be. The more you do, the easier it becomes. Okay, so let's use synthetic division. I know I can use synthetic division here because the divisor is linear, x to the first, and the coefficient is 1. All right, but remember how we do this. We take the divisor, x plus 2, set equals 0, and solve for x. So that's -2, so I'm putting -2 here. Then these numbers you put here are these coefficients. Just make sure they're in descending order, and if there's any missing terms, you put 0. 1, 2, -1, be careful, that's -1, and -2. And go through the process. Bring the first one down, multiply. -2 times 1, -2. Now you add. Remember that you add, multiply, add, multiply. 2 and -2, 0. That's easy, that's 0, because -2 times 0 is 0. Multiply, put that here. Now let's add. -1 and 0 is -1. Now let's multiply. -2 times -1 is a positive 2. And notice when I add, I get 0, which is my remainder. Now you're not always going to get 0, but in these two examples we did. Now remember what this is. These are the coefficients of my quotient. So your answer, remember, has to be written as a quotient plus a remainder divided by the divisor. So this is x cubed. If that's x cubed, then this has to be x squared. And this has to be x. And that's your constant. So my answer is going to be 1x cubed, or just, I'm sorry, 1x squared, which is x squared. Since that's 0x, let's not put that. Let's just leave the 0x off, and then minus 1. So x squared minus 1, that's your quotient, x squared minus 1. Plus the remainder, which is 0, divided by the divisor, which is x plus 2. Now, since the remainder is 0, 0 divided by this is 0, right? So I can write this as just x squared minus 1. Now listen, if you had done this, the long division, you would get the same answer, but notice that this is a lot quicker. You got to know both because you are going to be told to use synthetic division, so you have to know how to use it. So look, so if I had done this long division, you'd say x plus 2 divided into x cubed plus 2x squared minus x minus 2, right? So let's see what happens. First and the first, x cubed divided by x is x squared. So that goes here. Then let's multiply. X squared times x is x cubed. X squared times 2 is 2x squared. Then we subtract, right? And then we add. X cubed minus x cubed is 0. 2x squared minus 2x squared is 0, right? That's 0. So let's bring the next term, negative x. Now we divide. Negative x divided by x is a negative 1. That goes here. Then we multiply. Negative 1 times x is a negative x. Negative 1 times 2 is, oh, I forgot to bring on this minus 2 right here. Okay, so negative 1 times 2 is a negative 2. Then we subtract. Now I want you to notice this and this are the same. So this subtract itself is 0. So the remainder is 0. And so the answer will be the quotient x squared minus 1, which is what you saw here, wasn't it? Right here, see it? X squared minus 1. X squared minus 1. Plus the remainder divided by the divisor. Plus the remainder divided by the divisor. And that's what you had here. Okay? So just know that doing synthetic division removes all the variables. But at the end, you got to put it back in. So you just go back and you put it back in. You go 1 degree less. X cubed, x squared. And then the next one will be x, and then your constant, and that's your remainder. So very simple. So notice if you had done this using long division, you would get the same answer. All right? So let's look at number 3. So number 3, we have this. So is x minus 4 a factor of this? So remember in a previous lesson, we saw that if the remainder is 0, then the divisor is a factor of the dividend. And we had done that in a previous example. So for example, like this right here. Remember that one in the previous lesson? So is this a factor of this? Well, the remainder was not 0, so the answer is no. But I could not use synthetic division here, though, right? Because that's not a, we have a linear factor, but the coefficient of x is not 1. So you have to use long division. But here, I want you to notice, can I use long division here? And the answer is yes, because this is linear and the coefficient of x is 1. So you can use synthetic division only if the divisor is linear and the coefficient of x is 1. And remember we did. So to determine what number goes here, you take the divisor, set it equal to 0, and you get x to be 4. So now we get a positive 4 this time. The previous 2 examples, this number we put here was negative. Okay, that's because when we solved the divisor, it was always plus the variable plus a number. This time it's x minus 4. Okay, now let's put the coefficients here of the dividend. So 1, negative 3. We're missing a term, aren't we? So you see, you got to be careful. So you're missing a term. So be careful. I'm going to go ahead and write the missing term in it. X to the fourth minus 3x cubed plus 0x squared. See, you're missing that x squared term. Minus 7x minus 14. So don't forget about that. If you forget about that missing term, then all of this is going to be incorrect. All that's incorrect. Okay, so 1, negative 3, 0, our missing term, negative 7, and negative 14. All right, so let's see what we do. Bring down the 1. Multiply, you get 4. Add, you get 1. Multiply, you get 4. Add, 0 plus 4 is 4. Multiply, you get 16. Add, negative 7 plus 16 is, what's that, 9? Multiply, 4 times 9 is 36. And then add. So when I add negative 14 and 36 gives us 22. So that's your remainder. Now, notice in the previous two problems, I just want to remind you, in the previous two problems, remember we had to write the answer like this, okay? Because it said write the answer as a quotient plus the remainder divided by the divisor. Here, you don't do that because all you want to know is this. Is this a factor of this? All you have to do is look at the remainder. Since the remainder is not 0, you say the answer is no. So you're going to say since the remainder is not 0, x minus 4 is not a factor of the dividend. X to the fourth minus 3x cubed minus 7x minus 14. All right, divide using long division. Okay, so again, you're going to take x plus 5, the divisor, set equal to 0, and solve for x. So to get x to be negative 5. So that goes here. Now notice there's some missing terms, right? So don't forget about those missing terms. So think about the dividend. So remember your dividend is this, x to the fourth plus 6x cubed plus 6x squared plus 0x plus 0. So you're missing the x term and you're missing the constant. So now what goes here will be the coefficients you see here. So 1, 6, 6, 0, 0. All right, synthetic division. I can use synthetic division because the divisor is linear and the coefficient of x is 1. Okay, so bring on the 1. Always bring on the first one. Now multiply. Negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. Now we add. 6 and negative 5 is 1. Now we multiply. Negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. Now we add. 6 and negative 5 is 1. Now we multiply. Negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. Now we add. 0 and negative 5 is negative 5. Now we multiply. Negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. Now we add. We get 25, and that's your remainder. Okay, now remember you got to write, it says divide, so you need a quotient. These are the coefficients of your quotient. Okay, so remember this is x to the fourth. Always go one less. So we're going to put this as x cubed, and this will be x squared, and this will be x, and that's your constant. That's all you do. So now the answer is going to be this. Your quotient, your answer will be your quotient. That's your quotient. Remember, that's going to be your quotient. That's your remainder, and that's your divisor. So x cubed, 1x cubed is x cubed, plus 1x squared, which is just x squared, plus 1x, which is just x, minus 5, so that's your quotient. So this is this, plus the remainder, 25, divided by the divisor, x plus 5. And there's your answer. That's all you do. All right. And that is this part here about synthetic division. Okay, that's all that is. Okay? All right, so there are some problems, a worksheet that looks just like this, so make sure you're looking at these examples to help you for the work, because there's certain work I'm looking for, so make sure you do that. Okay, now let's look at this.